the CEO of an industrial giant sent the son of a small farmer, a young black man, to try to fix the company's most valuable machine. Little did he know who the boy's father was. "Hey, country boy, how about you try to fix our extra $15 million machine? Maybe beginner's luck helps, right?" The voice of Ricardo Medeiros, the CEO of Industrias Flux, echoed through the warehouse like a whip, drawing malicious laughter from the more than 50 employees who surrounded the stopped production line. Mateus Toledo, just 19 years old, calmly looked up from his cell phone, where he was typing a message to the priest. His hands, calloused from years of working on the family farm, remained steady as he sent the text. "Dad, you can start. The time has come." 3 weeks ago, the company's most modern machine was broken, costing exactly $540,000 per day in losses. 7 engineers with doctorates from the country's most prestigious universities, 2 specialists imported from Germany, and even a consultant from the Brazilian Space Agency, B, had surrendered in defeat before the silent equipment. Mateus was just there to pick up some documents that his mother, Helena Toledo, a secretary in the legal department for 15 years, had forgotten in her rush. It was her last day of work before starting engineering at a top university, a feat she kept secret for reasons only her family knew. "Come on, guys. Make way for our farm expert," Medeiros continued to gesture theatrically, while dozens of cell phones were raised to record the moment. His blue eyes gleamed with the calculated cruelty of someone who had built an empire by trampling on people like Matthew. "Maybe he applies some herding technique that our Harvard doctors don't know about." The laughter intensified, echoing through the shed like hyenas surrounding wounded prey. Matthew looked at every face around him, some laughing with genuine evil, others uncomfortable, but cowardly silent. He recorded each of them mentally. Dr. Sofia Campos, chief engineer and one of the few decent people in the company, whispered to a colleague, "This is blatant racial humiliation. Someone should stop this." But her voice was lost in the laughter that Medeiros had orchestrated with the mastery of a seasoned sociopath. "Just look at him, people." Medeiros approached Mateus like a predator, his breath smelling of expensive imported whiskey, invading the young man's personal space. "I bet you've never seen a machine that wasn't powered by a horse, right, little farmer?" Mateus remained motionless, but anyone paying attention would have noticed something unsettling in his eyes. There was no shame, fear, or anger, just an almost dangerous serenity, like the calm before a devastating storm. He had witnessed the same arrogance years before, when his father had been publicly humiliated by Medeiros himself during a community meeting. That day, Mateus swore that one day the Toledo family would have its revenge. And unlike most people, the Toledo family had the means to turn promises into reality. And then, little farmer, Medeiros knocked on the side of the machine with the same nonchalance with which one knocks on an old door. "Will you accept our scientific challenge, or would you rather go back to planting your sweet potatoes?" The silence that followed was thick as fog. Even the nervous laughter ceased. Everyone was waiting for the final humiliation, the moment when the young black man would lower his head and run away, confirming all the prejudices that Medeiros loved to feed. Mateus slowly put away his cell phone, his fingers sliding across the screen, in a final movement that could have been nervousness, but which, in fact, sent a GPS coordinate and a code that only 3 people in the world knew. Then, for the first time since he had entered the warehouse, he smiled. It was not the nervous smile of someone who feels intimidated, nor the forced smile of someone trying to disguise humiliation. It was the cold smile of someone who is about to rewrite the destiny of everyone present. Of course, Mr. Medeiros, it will be an honor to try to help. Those 8 words said with the impeccable manners his mother had taught him, they sounded like a death sentence to anyone who knew how to listen. Medeiros, intoxicated by his own arrogance, interpreted the kindness as submission. What none of those 50 people could have imagined was that Mateus Toledo was not just a farmer's son. He was the son of the man who had designed that machine 3 years ago in absolute secrecy under a confidentiality agreement that Medeiros had just violated so blatantly that he had signed his own professional death sentence. If you are curious to find out how a moment of racial humiliation turned into the biggest mistake in the life of a billionaire CEO and want to know what secret a seemingly simple family had been keeping for years, be sure to subscribe to the channel to follow this story of justice that goes far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Mateus approached the machine with the same ease as someone meeting an old friend. His fingers slid over the metal surface with an unsettling familiarity, completely ignoring the laughter that was still echoing in the background. Someone has a key, Phillips, and a flashlight, he asked, his voice cutting through the noise like a sharp blade. Medeiros laughed louder. Look, the country boy wants tools. How about a hammer too, kid? Maybe it works better than all our German technology. Dr. Sophia Campos, watching from the side, frowned. There was something in Mateus's posture that completely belied the stereotype Medeiros was trying to paint. She approached discreetly, handing him the requested tools. "Thank you, Doctor," Mateus whispered, his eyes meeting hers for a moment. "You designed the refrigeration system for this line, didn't you?" "Brilliant work." Sophia froze. That specific information was not available anywhere to the public. How could a young farmer know technical details that only she and 3 other people knew? As Mateus bent down to examine the lower panel, his cell phone vibrated. Discreetly, a simple message appeared on the screen. Coordinates received. Initiating the Phoenix DT protocol. Medeiros, intoxicated by his own performance, continued his cruel show. "Look at this, people. Now he's going to try to fix our $15 million machine with a screwdriver. Is anyone recording this? It's going to go viral on social media." The employees laughed nervously, but some were starting to feel uncomfortable with the gratuitous cruelty. Mateus, however, worked with surgical precision, removing specific panels as if he had a mental map of the internal structure. "Interesting," he muttered to himself, but self-sufficiently enough for Sophia to hear. "The pressure sensor is set to European parameters, but the American voltage is causing interference in the primary circuit. Classic conversion error." Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. Mateus had just identified the exact same problem that his team had spent 3 weeks suspecting, but had not yet been able to confirm. Medeiros, noticing that some people had stopped laughing to pay attention to Mateus' work, raised his voice even higher. "You know what, little farmer? When you fail miserably here in front of everyone, I'll make sure your mother loses her job too. A family of Incompetence doesn't deserve to work for a serious company. The threat against Helena made Matthias pause for a second. His hands clenched imperceptibly, but when he raised his face, his smile remained intact, now with a hint of something that made Medeiros involuntarily recoil. "Mr. Medeiros," Matthias said, his voice maintaining its impeccable politeness, "are you sure you want to stake your company's reputation at this point?" "Bet." Medeiros laughed, but there was a forced note in his voice. "Kid, you are literally a nobody. You have nothing to threaten me with." At that moment, Matthias's cell phone vibrated again. This time the message contained only GPS coordinates and a time. "Arriving in 20 minutes. Prepare the ground. DT." Matthias adjusted 2 internal cables with precise movements. Then he plugged in a small device he took out of his pocket, something that looked like a regular adapter but which Sophia immediately recognized as a custom voltage regulator. "Where did you get that?" she whispered in disbelief. "My father always taught me to be prepared," Matthew replied simply. The machine emitted a soft hum, then a metallic click. The status lights started flashing in sequence, something that hadn't happened in 3 weeks. A murmur of surprise ran through the group. Medeiros pushed people to get closer. "That's impossible. You cheated." "Cheat?" Matthew stood up, calmly wiping his hands. "Sir." "Medeiros, the problem was simply a voltage mismatch between European and American components. Anyone with basic knowledge of industrial electronics would know this." The silence that followed was deafening. The machine not only worked, it operated at a level of efficiency that exceeded all original specifications. Sophia looked at Matthew with different eyes, finally realizing what she should have noticed from the beginning. The confidence, the technical knowledge, the familiarity with equipment that only senior engineers should have. "Who are you really?" she whispered. Matthias checked the time on his cell phone. 15 minutes. Enough time for the second part of the plan. "Dr. Campos," he said, ignoring her question. "Do you believe that people deserve to be judged by their character and competence, not by their appearance or background?" Sophia nodded instinctively. "So, get ready. In a few minutes, Mr. Medeiros will discover that underestimating people could be the most expensive mistake of his life." While the machine was working without problems and Medeiros was struggling to find an explanation that would save his wounded dignity, no one noticed the black car that had just stopped at the company gate, nor the elegant man walking resolutely towards the warehouse. Man whose name was about to turn that racial humiliation into a nightmare that Medeiros would never forget. The sound of firm footsteps on concrete made a few heads turn towards the entrance of the warehouse. Dapper man in his 50s walked with natural authority, his suit understated but impeccable, carrying a leather briefcase that appeared to contain important documents. "Sorry for the interruption," he said, his voice cutting through the hubbub. "I am Daniel Toledo, and I believe you were testing my son." The silence was instantaneous and absolute. Medeiros frowned, visibly confused, while Matthias slowly stood up with a smile that finally revealed his true intentions. "Father, Matthias said simply, Mr. Medeiros was challenging me to fix the machine you designed, Daniel Toledo." The name ricocheted into Sophia Campos' mind like a shot. She knew the name from the most exclusive circles of industrial engineering, the reclusive genius who had revolutionized factory automation before mysteriously disappearing from the corporate world 3 years earlier. Medeiros, still trying to process the information, stammered, "I don't understand. You said you were a farmer." "I am a farmer," Daniel replied, opening the folder and taking out a sheaf of documents. "But I am also the engineer who designed this particular machine for Fluxc Industries under an exclusive confidentiality agreement. A contract that, according to my records, has been systematically violated." Dr. Sofia Campos approached, her eyes wide as she recognized the signatures on the documents. "My God, you are the DT of technical specifications." Always wondered who was the genius behind this project. Daniel smiled at her with genuine warmth. "Campos, I read your articles on energy efficiency. Exceptional work. It's a shame that my projects were credited to others." Medeiros felt the ground crumble beneath his feet. "Wait, that's impossible. Our engineers designed this machine in-house. We have all the documentation." "He is sure." Daniel pulled a tablet from his briefcase, displaying a dated video recording. "This is the meeting on March 14, 2021, where you secretly hired me to develop this project, ensuring that my name would never appear publicly. Here you sign the confidentiality agreement and agree to pay 800,000 Brazilian reals for exclusive rights." The recording showed Medeiros, clearly recognizable, shaking Daniel's hand in his luxurious office, discussing technical specifications that only the true creator would know. That was 3 years ago." Medeiros stammered, his face red. "No one needs to know these details." Matthew stepped forward, pulling out his own cell phone. "Indeed, sir. Medeiros, 50 people just witnessed you racially humiliating me and threatening to fire my mother. Everything recorded and posted live on the company's social networks." The color drained from Medeiros' face. "Couldn't you have done that?" "Oh, but I did." Mateus showed the cell phone screen, where thousands of views were already accumulating on the live video. The comments were devastating. "Racist CEO humiliates young black man. This man is disgusting. Boycott TechFlow. This is unacceptable in 2024. And the best thing is, Mr. Medeiros, Daniel, you remained relentless. You just breached your contract by publicly displaying my work. We recorded everything. You falsely credited your engineers with my design, violating the confidentiality agreement that required me to remain anonymous." Sofia Campos, finally understanding the magnitude of the situation, shook her head in disbelief. "Ricardo, you lied to all of us. We take credit for work we didn't do. Furthermore," Matthew added with deadly calm, "you violated federal civil rights laws by publicly discriminating against me based on my race. We have 50 witnesses and high-definition video evidence." Medeiros looked around desperately for support, but found only shocked and disappointed faces. Some employees were already whispering among themselves, others were typing furiously on their cell phones. "Don't you understand?" Medeiros tried to explain. "I was alone. It was a game, a personality test. A joke." Daniel's voice turned icy. "Calling my son a little farmer, suggesting that he uses barnyard techniques, threatening his mother's job, is that a joke to you?" Medeiros' cell phone began to ring incessantly. The board of directors had probably already seen the viral video. He answered with shaking hands. "Hello. Yes, can I Explain. No, it wasn't quite like that. As Medeiros tried to control the damage on the phone, Daniel turned to the stunned audience. My son fixed this machine in 15 minutes. Because I taught him every circuit, every component. He knows my work better than anyone here, including the man who stole my credit. Mateus watched Medeiros hang up the phone, his face pale as a sheet. Let me guess, Matthew said with subtle sarcasm. The council wants an explanation for the hashtags Corsista and Ora Racismo Fluxitec that are already going viral. Sure. Medeiros tried one last desperate move. Look, we can resolve this in a civilized manner. How about a promotion for your mother? A raise. Daniel Toledo smiled, but there was no warmth in that smile. Mr. Medeiros, the only thing we want now is justice. And from what I see in the comments on social media, 50,000 people agree with us. As Medeiros watched his career and reputation crumble in real time, one question remained. Could it be that his arrogance and racism had not only destroyed his own life, but revealed a truth about the company that would forever change the way the world viewed Fluxec Industries? 48 hours after the video went viral, Ricardo Medeiros emptied his executive desk. For the last time, the board had voted unanimously for his immediate dismissal, and the hashtags now racist and Catus boycott Fluxitec remained among the most commented topics on social media, accumulating more than 20 million views. Your personal belongings will be mailed to you, the paralegal said, avoiding eye contact. Your company car has been impounded. Your access to the systems has been revoked, and the legal department has requested that you not make any public statements about the incident. Medeiros tried to maintain his dignity, but his hands shook as he placed the family photo in a cheap cardboard box. In less than 2 days, he had lost not only his job of 15 years, but also dozens of corporate contracts that depended solely on his personal image. His shares in the company, once valued at 8 million Brazilian reals, were now worth less than toilet paper. Across town, Matthew received a call that would change his life forever. Mr. Toledo, this is Linda Roberts, the new interim CEO of Fluxc. We would like to offer you a position as a senior engineer with a starting salary of 120,000 Brazilian reals per year, plus a full scholarship to complete your studies at university. Daniel, sitting next to his son in the simple kitchen of the farm they no longer needed to sell, smiled with paternal pride. And what about the breach of contract and moral damages? He asked on the phone, his voice carrying the serenity of someone who finally saw justice being done. We are preparing compensation of our $2.5 million for the stolen credits, plus retroactive royalties on all derivative products. Linda replied, we would also like to establish a corporate diversity program in the name of the Toledo family, with an annual budget of 500,000 Brazilian reals. Dr. Sofia Campos, promoted to Director of Engineering after Medeiros' ouster, visited the farm in person at the end of the week, bringing a proposal that represented much more than a simple job offer. Mateus, I wanted to apologize in person for not defending you at the time, but I also wanted to offer you something revolutionary. She held out a folder with official documents printed on company letterhead. Fluxitec wants to create the Daniel Toledo Institute of Innovation, offering full scholarships, mentoring programs, and internship opportunities for young talent from rural and underserved communities. We need ambassadors who understand both technical excellence and the importance of social justice. Helena Toledo, Mateus's mother, could finally walk the halls of the company with her head held high, telling her colleagues about her son's college achievement and the true genius of her family, information she had kept secret for years to protect them from harmful expectations and systemic bias. Meanwhile, Medeiros was learning firsthand how the corporate world treats those who fall from public disgrace. His former executive friends not only avoided returning his calls, they actively spread the word that his consulting was radioactive to any brand that valued diversity and inclusion. Months later, Mateus was walking around the university campus as a full scholarship student, while his father simultaneously consulted for 3 of the largest technology companies in the country, each contract worth more than Medeiros had earned in his entire career. The documentary Racial Humiliation, The Price of Corporate Arrogance, had generated 15 million views and inspired dozens of young Black and Latino people to pursue careers in engineering and technology. The transformation at Fluxec was even more dramatic. The diversity program created by the Toledos not only hired 50 new engineers from diverse backgrounds but also developed 3 groundbreaking patents that increased the value of the company by 40%. Wall Street was officially acknowledging that the Toledo era had made Fluxec more innovative and profitable than it had ever been under his previous prejudiced management. Medeiros, for his part, had moved to a small town in the countryside after his professional reputation was completely destroyed. No significant company would hire him, and even basic consulting jobs were denied him when employers discovered his identity through a simple Google search. Arrogance, which once seemed like his greatest asset, had literally become his professional death sentence. During an interview for the podcast Justica, Social Macao, Mateus reflected on the entire experience with the maturity of someone well beyond his 20s. True revenge is not destroying the person who hurt you, it is building something so meaningful and transformative that it makes his limited opinion of you completely irrelevant. And genuine talent, Daniel added, his words carrying the weight of decades of experience. It has no color, social class, or geographic origin, but I have also learned that sometimes the world needs to see this truth in a very clear, public and impossible to ignore way. The story of the Toledo family has definitively proven that underestimating people based on superficial appearances or archaic prejudices can be the most costly and lasting mistake you can make. Someone makes in life. Mateus didn't just fix a broken machine. He fixed an entire system of prejudices and limitations that wasted extraordinary potentials on a daily basis. The best revenge was never the small destruction of the enemy, but the impeccable construction of a legacy that he could never have imagined or achieved. Mateus transformed a brutal moment of racial humiliation into the catalyst for a silent revolution that opened golden doors for thousands of young people who, like him, had hidden talents just waiting for the right opportunity to shine and transform the world. Have you ever been underestimated because of your appearance, background, or social status? How did you react when someone tried to diminish your potential? Leave your story of overcoming in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that true excellence always finds its way, regardless of the cruel obstacles imposed by prejudice and human ignorance.